gosh, I forgot to record. So,
I know, me too. I get
kind
it.
of a safeguard for me because, yeah. Anyways, hi guys. Hi Renee, Mary Ann, Shelly, Tycie. I'm so glad you're here. I'll give maybe another minute for people to hop on before we get started. But oh, there's Deb. Hi, Deb.
Hey, Deb.
How y'all doing? Everybody good? I would love for you guys to, as you're just waiting, if you have any questions about gut health, this is a really great time to ask. Hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot, Stacie, but maybe if we have some time afterwards, if you have questions, we can kind of go through those and touch on a few of them. Let's see here. Hi, Hope. Hey, Carrie. So anyways, thank you all for being here, and hopefully you guys are having some yummy lunch, breaking your fast. I'm getting my lunch right now, actually, some chicken salad. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, awesome. So if you guys have questions, put those in the chat feature. I will get started by introducing Stacie to you guys. Some of you are probably familiar with Stacie because she's been a huge help in sharing some educational pieces for my clients and also just in the social media world. So you've probably seen her somewhere at this point, but truly excited for her to come share with you all a little bit about how gut health connects to weight loss, how it can impact weight loss, and what we can do to kind of heal our guts and prevent our gut from, being terrorized by all the lovely foods and environmental factors that we put upon it. So anyhow, let's get started. First, I will share a little bit about Stacie. Stacie is a registered dietitian. She is a certified health and wellness coach, and she's also a Faster Way coach, which I love because she is very familiar, obviously, with the way we do things in the Faster Way. And I think that's great because she can connect the two pieces. She is in Winchester, Virginia. She attended Virginia Tech, and she currently practices telehealth nutrition therapy, specializing in anti-inflammatory diets, food sensitivities, and gut health. So she is our expert in this area. And so I'm so glad that she's here to share her expertise and knowledge with us. Her and her husband, Matt, live on a 10-acre property in Virginia, Apple Country, which I think that's so cool. And they have 3 kiddos, 2 bunnies, and 1 old dog. So how old is your dog, Stacie?
I've lost track. Is that terrible? Like, I feel like for 3 years I've been saying she's like 15.
Oh my God.
I think she might be 16 now. I don't know.
Oh, bless it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So again, thank you so much for being here. Truly honored that you would take time out of your day to be here and share your expertise with us on gut health. So let's just dive right in. First and foremost, why is it so important that we pay attention to gut health? Why should we care about gut health?
Well, I honestly think that gut health and really focusing on our gut health is going to be sort of the medicine of the future. I mean, it is not only preventative medicine, but it's therapeutic also. And it's something that we just miss. I mean, we've been missing it for years and years. And so I do think that we're moving in a really positive direction in focusing on gut health. I mean, I'm sure those of you who are here have probably heard about gut health or have been concerned or have had questions. And this is really because your gut is thought to be the primary brain in your body. There's a gut-brain connection. And so there is a strong link between what's going on in your brain, what you're doing, and what is going on in your gut. And probably more importantly, your gut is the primary source of your immune system. And so right now, when we've been talking about COVID for a year, the focus really should be on supporting that immune system and supporting our overall gut health. So, I mean, those are probably the big overarching reasons we should focus on them. But of course, there's a lot of smaller reasons that impact us every day.
Yes, exactly. And what we are going to focus on here is how that impacts weight loss as well. So, yeah, it's amazing how your gut, I don't think that I wasn't aware, honestly, of how impactful your gut health was on everything else that goes on with your body. So I think it's great that we're kind of starting, like you said, to move in the direction of being more mindful about that. And hopefully through proper nutrition and, some things that we're going to chat about today, we can be more cognizant, what I'm talking about, of that moving forward and just be more aware. So, tell us some of the signs or symptoms of gut dysfunction. So maybe we can, again, start to be more aware of that.
Yeah. So in my private practice, I've been in private practice for about the last 6 years. And, I started my private practice because my health was really suffering. I had what we sort of chalked up to recurrent mono, but the doctors couldn't help me. I would sort of go to the doctor and they wouldn't really give me any kind of solution. There was really nothing I could do about it, just go home and rest. But meanwhile, I couldn't take care of my kids. And so I remember leaving the doctor's office, and this was like before I had a smartphone. So I had like an iPad, and I'm like, antiviral foods, antiviral supplement, because, I knew that I had to go get back to my nutrition roots and really figure out how to address my health through nutrition. I'd been a dietitian for years, but this isn't stuff that we're taught in school. This is not stuff that doctors are taught in school. We don't use food as medicine. And so anyway, as I started to heal myself, I knew this is what I wanted to do when I grew up, and it ended up opening my own practice after I started feeling better and helping people. And so over the years, the people that I have seen come to my practice, they often don't have a real diagnosis, but they have a cluster of symptoms. They may have fatigue, insomnia. They may have headaches. They may have sinusitis, like, chronic postnasal drip, or sinus pressure. They may have mood disorders. That's very commonly linked to gut bacteria and gut biome. Joint aches and pains, and certainly unexplained weight loss or weight gain can be a factor with your gut health. So, I mean, when we look at what indicates a gut health problem, it could be any number of symptoms that are related to your immune system and that gut brain connection that we have, because that gut is breaking down vitamins and minerals, it is assimilating them, it's regulating hormones, it is excreting toxins. And if that's not healthy and that's not working, you could have any number of those symptoms, including autoimmunity, maybe autism, we think, eczema, fibromyalgia, asthma. All of those could be linked back to gut bacteria based on what we're seeing.
Yeah, and to step further, inflammation, because we know that inflammation in the body is what really hinders your ability to lose weight. And whenever your gut is not healthy and there's lots of inflammation in the body, it's going to be really difficult. So tell us now what role your gut plays in weight loss.
Yeah, so this is so important, because, even if you don't have irritable bowel syndrome, if you don't have necessarily digestive issues, I mean, if you're like me, I was 30 years old before I realized that, like, like my bathroom habits, and I talk about that a lot with my clients. So I'm not squeamish about it, but I didn't realize that that wasn't normal, that the things that were going on in my body weren't actually normal. And so a lot of times we just don't even know what's normal. But we're, having poor digestion. We have maybe too many bad bacteria and too few gut bacteria. We may have leaky gut, which is intestinal permeability, which means that bacteria and toxins are kind of leaking through the gut lining and causing that inflammation. And so when we're inflamed, it's really hard for your body to focus on losing weight. Your body is really busy putting out fires, right? It is consumed with the fact that it has all of, it's getting triggered by foods and other things. And so, it's not going to relax enough for you to lose weight. What's more is that your gut is affecting your thyroid. And so those of you who've had thyroid or adrenal conditions know that it can make it really tricky to lose weight. And this is because there is a direct connection between your gut and your thyroid. So not only can good bacteria boost your thyroid hormones, but bad bacteria can actually suppress it or turn down your thyroid function. So, if you're not addressing the gut and you're just taking, Synthroid and you're hoping it'll just help you lose weight, that may not happen. And then likewise, when it comes to weight loss, just that bad bacteria actually has a mind of its own. And it can really influence that weight loss efforts. In fact, we've seen research that obese people have different bacteria than lean people in their gut. So when we're missing some of those good bacterias, when we're more inflamed, it's going to be harder to lose weight.
Okay, so Deb has a question. She wants you to tell us more about gut and adrenal insufficiency. She has adrenal fatigue. So that's a great question, Deb.
Yeah. So, where to start? I mean, I think when we look at it overall, when we look at adrenal insufficiency or adrenal fatigue, I mean, we have to get back to the inflammation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to reduce that overall inflammation, which again starts in your gut. Because our immune system starts in our gut, that inflammation is there, and that is going to affect those adrenals. It's going to affect the thyroid. And so we have to not only focus on reducing that inflammation, but also making sure that you have that healthy bacteria in there. Specifically as far as all the hormones are concerned, I don't want to get too in the weeds with, how, I mean, we've got like trillions of different kinds of bacteria that we can, that we know exist. And we've got pounds of bacteria in our body, but I will talk about a couple of probiotics that I recommend. I know you had a question about that. I'll talk about a couple of different probiotics that I recommend specifically for weight loss. One is Saccharomyces boulardii. Now that is a good yeast. And we have a lot of bacteria and a lot of yeast. It's very normal to have some yeast in your body. If you've ever had a yeast infection or athlete's foot or toenail fungus, those are pretty overt signs that you've got a yeast overgrowth, but sometimes it can be more insidious. Sometimes it can be headaches or skin conditions or eczema that indicate that you have an overgrowth of the bad yeast. So we use this good yeast to crowd out the bad yeast. And then again, when we are able to minimize the yeast and minimize inflammation, which that also helps you do, you will then allow your thyroid and adrenals to really function more optimally. That's what we need it to do. We just need to kind of put out that inflammatory fire to allow it to function more optimally. So that's definitely one. The other strains that I would go to would be lactobacillus strains, and there's a lot of them out there, and a lot of them have been linked to weight loss and thyroid, adrenal metabolism. There's a lot of those, but it's really going to depend on you. And like, if you have a histamine issue, I'm very cautious with using some of those probiotics. So I really focus on starting with that S. boulardii, that Saccharomyces boulardii.
That's interesting. I always, like you said, there's so many different options out there. It just makes me nervous to recommend certain things, as a general recommendation. I think it's a little bit difficult. So,
Mhm.
um, let's see. Deb has another question. She read that gut health can impact seasonal allergies. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I see that a lot in practice. And usually, when I'm working with somebody to repair their gut, I sort of have two, I guess, protocols that I work with. One, I kind of use the fun acronym called DRESS, which is diet, rest, exercise, stress management, and supplements. Okay, so that's kind of the foundation for addressing gut health. If we can do that, then we will see improvements in gut health. When I kind of dig in deeper, like if that's not quite enough, if you still have symptoms of inflammation or poor gut health, then I move on to what is called the 4R protocol. And in that 4R protocol is really where I tend to see more improvements in allergies. Um, Let me just explain real fast before I talk about this protocol. You kind of have to visualize in your body that you have a histamine bucket, right? You have a bucket that gets filled up with histamine when you're exposed to seasonal, environmental allergens, um, perfumes, foods that would cause a histamine response. I mean, anything that could trigger a histamine response triggers a histamine response, and you start filling up that bucket. Well, if you're not able to empty out that bucket through good detoxification, through having a healthy gut, then that bucket is going to overflow. That histamine bucket is going to be overflowing, and that's when you're going to be symptomatic. So all of us are going to produce histamine, but it's really when that bucket gets too full that we start to have allergy problems. And so that's why it can vary from day to day, from year to year, from season to season, because you might not be emptying out that bucket fast enough, or you may be exposed to more things on certain days or months or weeks. So one of the things that I try to do with this 4R protocol is really empty out that bucket and support detoxification along with the good gut health. So the first step is always removing trigger foods. And one of the things that I love about, Faster Way is that we really work to remove some of these trigger foods. We remove gluten, dairy, and sugar. And if you haven't, well, at least in my group, I I always recommend we definitely work towards less sugar. If you haven't tried those things yet, I really recommend them because they can be inflammatory on their own. And I always think of your first 6 weeks as a great experimental time to find out how much that impacts your level of inflammation. But when we take those out, again, your body is not so busy fighting the fires of inflammation that those might cause. So that allows your body to start healing a little bit more. And we can take that a step further and do food sensitivity testing, if you find that that's not enough or if other foods are triggering. But we always want to remove those trigger foods. And then the second R is replacing nutrients and enzymes. So that really starts with that whole food based diet where we're really focused on nutrient dense foods. That's when we want to cut out those processed foods that get in the way of absorbing the better foods, all the nutrients. So we focus on that. We may need enzymes or lemon water or apple cider vinegar water to help with digestion. You may need an additional, multivitamin or other specific nutrients. The ones that I always start with would be zinc for healing up the gut lining, vitamin D for reducing inflammation and helping with hormones. And that also helps. Both of those help with seasonal allergies. Magnesium, we're often deficient in, and then omega-3 fatty acids, which are also helpful for reducing allergies. So see, we're layering these things in. So this can be applied for weight loss. This can be applied for seasonal allergies because both are affected by your gut health. Then we really move into that re-inoculating the good bacteria, eating lots of fiber, fermented foods, very limited sugar because we don't want to feed that bad yeast or the bad bacteria. And then the repair. Repair is what happens when you're intermittent fasting. That's what happens in that digestive rest. So when we talk about rest, it's not just Fridays and Sundays. It's that rest time for 16 hours that you're getting every day, that digestive rest where you're allowing your body to heal. Because ultimately, that's what your body wants to do. It wants to heal on its own if you put it in the right conditions.
Okay, this is so good to know. And the good thing is that we're doing a lot of this already in the faster way. So that should be encouraging to you all. Um, so one of the things that I found interesting, I was listening to something yesterday about, we can talk about how stress reduction, like increased cortisol, what does that do to your gut? But also like what, how can we just simply reduce the impact of stress on our body so that we don't have that like uh constant I feel bloated at the end of the day. And what I was hearing is, it has a lot to do with, we're just constantly in this like rat race of just, we're so busy. And so we are standing up, eating our lunch, and we are taking these huge bites and swallowing these huge chunks of foods. And we are eating our meals way too fast. And we're not, chewing our foods enough, and not, giving our bodies time to enjoy every single bite. And so that alone can be a huge issue with bloating. And so just kind of like trying to take some steps to be more mindful of reducing just that kind of stress on our bodies can really impact our gut and how we process foods a little bit easier. And you may see less bloating and less gut issues just by simply taking time to eat your foods, more intentionally, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I have a gut health or a guide to good digestion on my website. And so I always talk about um, it's sometimes it is as simple as what we call meal hygiene, which is kind of like not a fun way to describe it, but in the dietitian world, we talk about meal hygiene. Your digestion starts when you start smelling food cooking. And as you're looking at it, the gastric juices are then starting to get ready to break down your food. So this is important that we slow down and take time to smell our food, to look at our food. Taking 3 deep breaths before you sit down for mealtime is a great way to kind of prepare yourself for a meal. Often we eat less when we do this, which is also helpful. Slowing your meal time down to about 20 minutes. That now, you guys, if you sat down and set a timer for for how long it actually took you to eat, it's like 5 minutes. I mean, you spend an hour cooking and then you are done in 5 minutes. So, um, chewing every bite like 20 to 30 times until it's liquid will also help with that digestion. It will help your brain and gut talk more during mealtime so that you're then not overeating, you're having fewer, cravings for other foods. Um, I also recommend don't have a drink with your meal. This is something that I figured out actually when I was pregnant. But when you're drinking with your meal, you're actually pushing more air into your stomach, and you're diluting the stomach acid that we need to break down foods. And that's how we end up feeling bloated and gassy. So, drink some water beforehand, drink some water after, but try not to drink with meals. Don't drink with straws. That's also going to promote more gassiness and bloating. Same with chewing gum. Those are things that, it could be so simple. Like if you're experiencing gas and bloating, I would definitely take a look at some of these little habits that you're doing every day, and just make an effort to be intentional when you eat.
Yeah, and that could solve a lot of your problems. Maybe there isn't an underlying problem, but what you need to pay attention to is it just that you feel bloated, or like you said, all those other things, Stacie, like feeling really tired and lethargic and headaches and eczema and all those other signs are helpful kind of to maybe help you decipher whether it's just you need to take some time and slow down and be intentional with your eating habits, or there could be something else going on. So I know we're getting a little bit long here, so I won't ask a ton more questions, but can you tell us how stress impacts cortisol and how cortisol plays a role in your gut function?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, stress is definitely going to increase your cortisol levels, but it's also going to decrease some of those digestive enzymes that we have. It's going to slow down your metabolism overall and slow down that digestive process. And so, managing stress is a huge piece of not only, I mean, when you're stressed, you are, physically getting inflamed, right? Oftentimes we are physically getting inflamed when we're stressed. And so again, we always have to look at the underlying root cause, like what is causing the inflammation that is causing that imbalance in the gut and making it harder to lose weight or to feel good. And so yeah, I mean, I would say managing stress is a big piece of, at least those of you in my group, and I know Lauren, you've talked about it too. I mean, we spend a whole week in our first 6 weeks just talking about stress management. And so I always recommend finding that one habit that works for you. VIP has that walking meditation right now, which a lot of my group members have loved. And it's good because you don't have to be sitting. A lot of people can't sit still for that long to really meditate. But when we're meditating, we're connecting the gut and the brain. There's a nerve called the vagus nerve that runs from your gut to your brain. And a lot of times it gets weak. It's a low toned, and that can be a problem. That will impact your immunity, it impacts your gut. And so we have to strengthen that nerve, that vagus nerve, or that gut brain connection by doing things like meditation, deep breathing. That includes when you're exercising, breathing hard can help. Gargling, singing, all of those things will exercise that muscle and make it stronger, and will actually help you with anxiety and stress as well as that gut.
Really cool. Good to know. Thank you. This has been so good. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I have a couple more things there's a question I want to answer from the girls over here. But first, so we're going back to, healthy diet first, and then supplementation second. But when we were talking about how we, re-inoculate your gut with that good bacteria, you need more fiber. Can you tell us how much fiber you recommend? What should we be getting on a daily basis, and maybe some high fiber foods that you can recommend to us?
Yeah, definitely. So your fiber is going to feed the good gut bacteria. And if you have an imbalance of bacteria, sometimes that's why you can feel a little bit more bloated. When you're starting to eat more fiber, when you transition to a higher fiber diet, you want to go kind of slowly. You don't just go from 0 to 60. So in MyFitnessPal, pay attention to where you're at. You should be at least 25 to 30 grams. If you're not, like, let's say you're at 10 grams a day, I'll, focus on getting up to 15 grams, and up to 20, 25, 30. Try to make increments, because sometimes we end up being constipated when we have too much fiber right away. So want to avoid that. But the fiber, you're going to get that from those fruits and vegetables. You're going to get really good prebiotics, which is what we call the food for the probiotics. We're going to get that with things like asparagus, artichokes is a really good way, garlic, onions, bananas, oats, soybeans, if you're a vegetarian. And then some of you, if you're following me, I posted those konjac noodles a couple weeks ago, and I can't believe how many people were interested in these noodles. But they're a Japanese tuber. It's made from a Japanese tuber that's really fibrous, and it's excellent low carb source of fiber. So every day you should really be looking to incorporate these, nuts, seeds, fruits and vegetables, brown rice and oats into your diet.
Excellent. Okay. So say we practice kind of taking it easy, meditating, chewing our foods instead of swallowing it whole like I usually do because I'm running from here to there 100 miles an hour. And that's not the case. That's not the issue. We have some other issues that we suspect are at play, and it could be that we have some gut issues. What do we do? And how?
Yeah. So going back to those 4 R's, when we talk about removing trigger foods, that is always my first step into that next level. Like if you're doing everything in the faster way, you are eating whole food nutrition, you are limiting gluten and dairy and sugar, you are resting, exercising, you are managing your stress, and maybe you're taking your vitamin D, and maybe you are taking a probiotic and magnesium and maybe a multivitamin. Okay, so you're doing all of this and you're still frustrated because maybe the weight isn't coming off, and you've adjusted your macros and done all that, or maybe you're having these other symptoms and the weight's not coming off. That's when I would look at potentially doing food sensitivity testing. Now, I don't really use or recommend some of the ones that we see the commercials for, simply because I haven't worked with them myself. The test that I prefer really looks at what your immune system is doing a little bit more in depth. And that way we can get a good idea of, okay, are there healthy foods that are triggering inflammatory responses or causing these symptoms? Once we identify those foods, then, only then can the gut really calm down, your immune system calms down, and then we move into that repair work and the reinoculation. Again, this is where a one size fits all approach doesn't always work, but the faster way is such a great foundational program because you're doing so much of the legwork that, you have this really solid foundation in your lifestyle behaviors in the faster way. And so I always say this is the best place to start, in the faster way. And then, there's functional practitioners that can help, do these kind of next level testing or figuring out what other nutrients you might need with a micronutrient test or other.
Awesome. Okay. So, Stacie, for those of us here who don't already know you and follow you, can you tell us where we can find you? All of that good information about you so that everyone can follow along with you and learn from you.
Sure. Yeah. So my handle on everything is Stacie H Nutrition. It's STACIE Nutrition. And that's my website. That is my Instagram. That is my Facebook. You can friend me on Facebook or follow my business page. But that's where I can be found. And like I said, I do have that digestive guide if you guys are interested. I was just thinking there was something else I was going to maybe send you, Lauren, to share with the group. And now I've forgotten what it is.
Okay, well, you can remember later, and I'll
I will remember.
the replay. There was one more question I thought was a really good one from Carrie. Do you think it's possible to go off thyroid meds by healing the gut?
It really depends on your thyroid. Now, if you have an autoimmune thyroid condition, let's say you have Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, always start with gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. You could have other food sensitivities that are playing a role in that. Stress and sleep are huge components of thyroid function. I mean, I can't even say that enough, how much those two things affect your thyroid. I've seen people come off thyroid medication when they don't have an autoimmune condition, when it's just their thyroid's a little bit off, but they don't have markers of autoimmunity. But it's estimated that 90% of thyroid conditions are autoimmune, but a lot of times our doctors aren't testing the right things for that, just the way that medicine is set up right now. So that's kind of a circular answer. I've seen it. I would say maybe like 10% of the time. I don't think it can happen all the time, but you could certainly decrease your dosage. And since you asked, I always tell my clients to get their thyroid checked. Absolutely, like, week 6, week 8. I mean, if you're in a new client round, go back and get your thyroid checked, week 6, 8, 10, because I've seen people go from hypothyroid to hyperthyroid in that first 6 weeks, because again, your thyroid can start working more optimally. So you might be over medicated at that point.
Awesome.
Or you've lost weight, so you're over medicated and you're switching the other direction. So if you've lost weight, or even if you've just made really big changes, keep an eye on that thyroid. Get it checked every 2 to 3 months until it's stable.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that was so helpful. All of this was helpful. Even I'm um, learning great things too. So thank you again, Stacie, for being here. Does anyone have any last minute questions before we go? If you do, just put those in the chat feature. Appreciate you all being here today. This was great. I'm going to email out and post the replay for everyone in the groups. And if you guys don't have any questions, we'll let you go. Enjoy your lunch, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you so much, Stacie.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Bye.